Hi guys, it's Andrew Zeleno, nice to see you again. I'm a professional audio engineer with 15 years of experience in professional field. Last 5 years I'm a teacher for the really unique audio production and mixing course. Really recommend this course for you, it can be game changer. So basically we're gonna talk about best settings for amplifiers. Actually I really don't like ideas of having presets, because presets never work. Because everybody has their own style, their own type of playing, maybe different guitars, different output of pickups. There is pretty no way how you really can specify settings by default, but I'm just gonna teach you right now how to set up those levels. It's really easy actually. For example, right now you can see top panel of this amplifier, and you have first two knobs. First knob it's a gain knob, and second knob it's a master. With first knob what you do, you decide how much distortion you need. You get to that point when you start to have breakup. In some channels of course it's already overdriven, but if you use more clean sounding amplifier, you go to some breakup point and it suddenly starts to sound more overdriven, like a little bit like broken sound. And if you go a little bit more, you get to the sweet spot where your sound starts to get more and more harmonics and your sound start to be more consistent, like compressed and packed. You just decide how much distortion, how much overdrive you want to get to your sound. Just make sure that you get to the sweet spot, because if you go a little bit more than you need, you usually have more fizzy, more noisy, more broken sound when you have like squashed, form of guitar sound. If you go too low, in this case, some note, especially when you hit strings harder, can be overdriven, and other strings can be like too clean. Some people even like this sound, it's like dynamic playing when you can strum and it's overdriven, you strum really quietly and it sounds almost clean. So if you like something like that, you also can use this setting. It's a master knob, which is output volume. Basically it controls output tubes. In this case, the more you rotate it, the fatter, the muddier, the more kind of a compressed sound you get. So basically my main approach of guitar amplifier setup is to find right amount of gain, and I always try to combine this setting with the second knob, which is volume. If, for example, you have fatter sound before power tubes, if you're gonna rotate power tubes more and more and more, you're only gonna get muddier and muddier and muddier sound. Instead, what you can do, you can achieve pretty clear sound, when it's not too fat. Just after gain stage you have lack of body, you don't have enough fatness and smoothness. Sometimes sound can be a little bit harsh, maybe annoying, maybe too much upper mid-range. And with power tubes, with volume knob, you have more and more and more fatness, more and more body to your sound. If you overdo it, your sound starts to be muddy. If you just play guitar, maybe it's not a big deal, you can set up any amount of low end, any amount of course relatively, any amount of body to your guitar sound. But if you record something, it's one of the most difficult to put a guitar which has too fat low end, too much mids, into the mix. Vocal can be sounding unclear, dying under your guitar. Drums doesn't cut through your guitar. It can be like too fat, too muffled, too humming sounding guitar. So you always try to use these two knobs until you really find that right frequency balance between mids, highs and lows. In this case it will be okay. So basically speaking, what the secret I'm trying to say, EQing of guitar amplifier first of all goes from a gain and volume knob. You achieve frequency balance using these knobs, not EQ knobs first of all. But EQ module of your guitar amplifier is really good secondary shaping tool which allow you to do a lot of things. For example, in this amplifier we don't have presence knob, it's different story. In this case we have classic three knobs: bass, mid and treble. I would recommend to consider it like this. Lows, it's like in audio, in sound, there is no like only positive things or negative things. If you increase one positive aspect of your sound, you usually get a little bit more negative artifact, more audible negative artifact. And so basically it's a game between what you choose with low knob, like fatter, rounder, big sound of a guitar, but more muddiness. Or opposite, if you rotate bass to the left, you decrease amount of muddiness, but unfortunately you lose low end. So you need to find this kind of proper balance between fatness, let's say awesomeness of your guitar sound, and tightness and clarity ability to be clear in the mix, not to spoil other instruments in the mix. In this case, you rotate lows to the left. So I really recommend not to overdo with bass knob. I personally tend to rotate it to the left. Because guitars, especially when you have bass guitar in the mix, you really don't need a lot of lows from a guitar sound. So you kind of try to keep that right balance when it's fat enough to be sounding good. Because honestly speaking, people do one important mistake with lows. They think like this: we can record guitar sounding great like we like, but on the mixing stage, mixing engineer just gonna cut lows, gonna put more kind of space for other instruments, and everything will be fine. Unfortunately, guitar is an exception. I would say guitar is the most difficult instrument to EQ in mixing. The most difficult instrument. The reason why, because it has too much harmonics. It makes your sound more difficult to control with regular equalizer like SSL, like I have over here, analog SSLs or plugins. Up to you, I have a controller, Soft Tubes, Console 1 over here as well. So, or universal audio waves, I use them all. So basically, the problem is if you gonna cut lows, you gonna change balance between mids, highs and lows later in mixing, your guitar tone will be changed. You, as a guitar player, as a guitarist, you really desire tone, right? You desire to have really great tone. If you achieve this tone during recording, and later on the mixing stage it will be cut, EQ'd, you can lose your tone. So the best approach I personally understood from my experience is to get a proper guitar sound during recording stage. In my opinion, is the only instrument you really need to work on during recording. Later during mixing stage, it's better not to touch your guitar a lot, maybe just a little bit, you know, like little adjustments, maybe fixing too much, like bottom end. That's it, something like that. So the less you touch your guitar on mixing stage, the better. So the really key is to make your guitar tighter, predicting how it will be sitting in the mix in advance. That's why I suggest to control bass to the left side. I mean, try to find the least amount of lows when it still sounds okay, but you have less amount of lows. It will be easier to put it in the mix. That's it later. Next knob called mid, right? Middle frequencies. People really underestimate mid frequencies. It's not just like you like more mids or less mids. Honestly speaking, in the mix, you have much better sounding drums and vocals when you have lower amount of mids from a guitars, because they are tubes, they put second harmonic a lot. Second harmonic usually will be based somewhere around low mid, mid, you know, in the range from let's say, depending on where your fundamental tone of a note. Anyway, it will be sounding around 500, maybe 300, maybe 700, depending on what kind of note you're gonna have. In this case, if you have these frequencies too much, you usually don't have opportunity for other instruments to sound really clear. That's why, especially in metal music, it's really popular idea to cut mids, because it allows you to have more space for other instruments. In my personal opinion, how I see it, during recording history, it happened to be a situation when audio engineers intuitively always cut those mids. And you, like newer generation of mixers, of music producers, guitar players, music writers, you already like your predecessors, you like AC/DC, you like other bands before you, you know, and in some way it makes you want to sound like them. And they don't have those mid frequencies, and that's why you also desire to get rid of mids. If you considered it from the beginning, you would maybe consider mids a little bit differently, but just because of, you know, your predecessors, your favorite music just pushes you to control mids in a lower direction. In this case, you're gonna have better sound. But at the same time, you know, it's controversial. Who knows, maybe it's a solo guitar. Maybe your solo sounds better with increased mids. Why not? Some people prefer to have a lot of mids in their guitar sound. So I mean, it's up to you. I just give you a couple of ideas how you can consider it in terms of how it will be sitting in the mix. So I mean, if you have less mids, more chance that the vocal will be sounding like a pop star vocal. You know, when it's super clean, super noticeable. Maybe you don't even need it. So that's why maybe you don't need to cut those mids. But again, if you have just a crunch or like cleans, you usually still have plenty of space for other instruments. You don't have this big problem. You usually have this big problem with mids when you have too much gain in your guitar sound. So you tend to cut those frequencies. You can check John Petrucci settings, you can check ideas of AC/DC, how they set up their amplifiers. You will notice the same approach. And last knob, but not least, it's a treble knob. Treble knob is really, really important. You know, it's absolutely important and valuable knob in terms of achieving openness. For me, word openness is a key in mixing. You know, a lot of mixes nowadays, especially if you have monitors really showing you muddiness, you know, some monitors just sound really bright. I have 5 monitors right now, you see only one of them, one under repair, and I have 3 monitors staying over here, you don't see them. So basically one pair of monitors really, really bright, and I pretty never hear enough muddiness information. For me, on those monitors everything sounds really clean. Who knows, maybe your headphones or your monitors also sounds clean and you don't realize how muddy your guitar sound is. My newer monitors called Dynaudio Elite 7 is, you know, amazing monitors in terms of showing you muddiness. You really see all this boxiness, muffled sound when everything sounds like instead of like this, right? I really hear all these problems on these monitors about mid frequencies. I would say treble knob, it's not just, you know, like you want to have more highs or less highs, it's really valuable knob. Over here we play in a game what you desire, like more open sound but more annoying and fizzy sound, or smoother sound, more pleasant sound but already muffled sound like this. So you always should set up treble knob in a place when your guitar's open enough but still not annoying. You rotate a little bit more, you rotate it like brighter. In this case it will be more annoying but clearer in the mix. You rotate it to the left, it will be less clear in the mix, more muffled, already pretty kind of cheap sounding because, you know, it's like underwater. People usually consider muddy sound like amateur type of mixing. You got the idea? Of course I have much more to say about that. We're gonna have this topic with my students. My course most about mixing, but of course we have everything, including recording, including monitoring, studio setup and all this stuff. What you get if you attend this course? First of all, it's a really full theory. You will never need to learn anything after this course. I really know to explain really well, so even if you're a total beginner you can attend this course, and after this course you will never need to learn anything about audio production anymore. Second thing, what you get, it's a top skills. We have a lot of homeworks. I check your homeworks and you even can choose your own songs. I never check your song before the class. I open it and I explain how to do it better. I show you what I do, what to listen to, why I do this. And we always compare with some top sounding mix of some audio engineer from top 20 audio engineers ever, and I show you how to bring your mix to that level when it's really comparable against some, let's say, mix from Chris Lord-Alge, for example. In this way you see your progress class after class, and other schools show you only final settings for some specific project. So in this case, those settings can be absolutely useless for other songs. Third thing, what you get, it's a great value. You can buy 1 microphone or 4 plugins or 1 decent preamplifier or 1.5 monitors, decent monitors, and it doesn't guarantee that you're gonna have top sounding mixes, top sounding products, top sounding music. My course costs the same, but it's 1000 times more valuable because it really gives you that results. And it costs like 30-50 times less than some university program of Berklee or Full Sail University, and I even had students who graduated from Berklee and they said my course is better. And fourth thing, you're on the safe side, because you don't have any risk to lose your money because you pay monthly. That's it. So check it out, this course, it can be really useful.